It has been done. After days of trying, I have finally opened this camera from 1945. I could not be more proud of myself. It's time to celebrate this. Cheers. Let's go. Welcome back everybody. Today we're going to talk macro. What does it mean to take a macro shot? Imagine you have your camera, right, and you have a lens on it, and this lens is like your kit lens, for example. If you try to go close to an object, for example, the random object, a watch that I'm placing on a table right here, if I try to go close with my camera to that object, eventually the camera will say nope, because it's not going to be able to focus on that object properly the closer I get. There's always going to be a minimum distance required between the camera and the object that I'm photographing in order for the object to be nice, crisp, sharp and in focus. And this is for anything that you put anywhere. You can't go below a minimum distance of X depending on the lens and the camera you have. There's a way around that, however. So for instance, you could buy a lens which is called a macro lens. And macro lenses are specifically designed to let you get really close up to your object so that you can get these really nice macro shots from insects that you might have seen or from people that shoot flowers. So they just go really close and it's going to give this really nice macro shot. Now, the problem with that is that usually people that start out in photography, they have a kit lens, like this one for instance, and a relatively cheap camera, and they don't really know yet what they want to do. Do they want to go into landscape photography, portrait photography, potentially macro photography? Yeah, why not? But you would have to buy a different lens for all these different things, and it's kind of a bit expensive if you're just starting out, right? So for those of you out there that have just started photography and they have the good old kit lens, or for those of you that have been in photography forever but would like to spice up things a little bit but do not have a macro lens, here's a cool little trick how you can take any lens that you own and turn it into a macro lens in like no time whatsoever. And here's what you have to do. The only thing necessary to turn your lens into a macro lens is to take the lens off the camera and increase the distance between the lens and the camera itself. Now, if you do that, look at this example for instance. If you do that, the object that you're looking at, the closer you are, if you remove the lens and you remove it from the camera, the further the distance, the more sharp objects will become if they are really, really close. And that is a super, super cool principle that you can use to your total advantage. Just put anything that you have in your house on a table or outside or wherever you are in your garden and just detach the lens from the camera, increase the distance, and the object, whatever you are close to, will become sharp and nicely in focus. Now, the only problem that you might get with that is if you imagine that this is your sensor within the camera, if you remove the lens, you're going to have light leaks. That means light is going to enter the sensor or reach the sensor from many kind of different directions other than the lens only, because now there is space in between. So depending on how good you are with DIY stuff, you could just go ahead and Google what is called an DIY extension tube. So you would essentially take anything to bridge that gap, the distance between the lens and the camera itself, just to shut the light out. Or otherwise you are like me, which is not really that DIY kind of deal. So what I do, I just normally take anything that I have with me, which is usually always a scarf, and I just throw it over the area between the camera and the lens itself, and I just have my hand under the scarf itself. And that helps me at least because I don't do that very often, right? But whenever I do it, I don't need to do like this kind of distance. For me, it's usually enough if I can get it that far away from the camera. And for these purposes, it's super cool. Just throw the scarf, remove the lens, increase the distance, and take any macro shot you need. There's also the thing where you can theoretically take your lens, remove it from the camera and just turn it around so that essentially the front end of the lens points towards the sensor. You can do that, but it hasn't really worked out for me that well. But hey, give it a go. It's a common thing to do, so you might as well try because you got nothing to lose. And there we go, just a quick tip how to turn any lens into a macro lens if you just want to give it a go, give it a try, and maybe you get even into it and convinces you to buy a proper macro lens eventually down the road. But that's just a quick tuning in from my part. I hope if you did like the video, do not forget to hit the thumbs up button, and also if you're new, do not forget to subscribe as I'm gonna pump out videos every week as always. And I shall see you in the next video next week. You guys have a good one. Bye!